Hollerboo! That was painful. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you had to hear that, everyone. Yeah, Hollerboo is tomorrow. Well, today for you guys. If you're listening to this fresh out of the box immediately upon release at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, turn it off. Come down to Happy Holler. The 1200 block of North Central. We shutting it down. We're racing derby cars. We're having a street fair. We're having a dog parade. We're having some other cool stuff. And then we're having a whole big old rock and roll show all the way into the nighttime. You should join us. It's going to be great. I'm going to be a freaking mess. Almost an agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. For the last day or two, there is the Hollerboo link there. But other than that, there's all sorts of other cool stuff you can check out there. Go to your favorite podcast provider, like, friend, follow, share. Text us to your friends. We're going to do a show, and it might be a little short, but we'll see what happens. All right, here we go. Okay, it's fucking late October, buddy. This is not okay.
What?
I mean, it's supposed to get it's gonna get pretty chilly overnight tonight. But I mean, it's like 70 plus degrees, and it's.
Yeah, I saw something on the Weather Channel earlier. They were
PM.
showing like 6 or 7 cities that were expected to possibly break their records.
This is too much. Quit driving your cars, people. This is dumb. No more cars.
And one of them was like Phoenix, but it was like 100 degrees was what it was expected. To where I think the record might have been.
Hello.
My name is Amanda from Vital Health.
Come on. I'm trying to do a podcast, Amanda. Leave me alone. Sorry, a couple major cities forecasted for.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was a scam call. I never get them when I'm here.
Get distracted.
It's hot.
Yeah,
it's hot.
It should be. It was chilly last week.
I know. It was. I loved that.
I'm not even sure. I think that was still slightly below normal. I think
maybe that's what it was. Maybe
I'm not sure.
Maybe I got that. I got a little early, a little too excited about the cool too early, and now it's just kind of bounced back. But it's still
I got my winter stuff out like a week or two ago.
I know, I was joking.
So I was like, it's going to be like almost in the 30s next week.
I had my annual with my doctor, and I was in there with shorts, and she was like, "You one of those people?" I was like, "No, it takes me I live in Knoxville. It takes me a month or two to pull out my winter gear and put away my summer gear."
Right.
And it's only been like 4 days of it being remotely cold. So, anyway, it's going to be gorgeous. We might get a couple of showers in the middle of the afternoon, but very light tomorrow, so it's not going to mess with Hollerboo too much. Maybe get the slick racetrack for just a minute, just to get a little crazy. Right there.
You guys going to run rain or shine?
Yeah, we're
just
running
heavy rain.
Well, I mean, and when it's forecast is going to be we might already be done, or we'll be right at the tail end of the races. It might be the championship race in the rain. How exciting will that be?
Dun, dun, dun.
So anyway, if you're listening to this again, turn it on. Well, leave it on in your car as you drive down to Happy Holler. Find a place to park. Come in. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff. If you got the kids with you, bring them on. We got bounce houses and other cool stuff with that. Oh, shit. I got to pay them. I forgot about that. I need to do that before I go to bed tonight. Note to self, pay inflatables, people. Yeah, so another thing that happened just now is I was trying to watch Jeopardy with the missus, which is the standard of my evenings. And instead of watching Jeopardy, I had an NBC News special report of Israel has attacked Tehran.
I was just looking at that. I think it said targets. At least the AP story looked at the headline, just said targets in Israel.
I mean, they put bombs on targets.
Military targets.
They put bombs on targets. So,
right, but that's different than bombing the major city. Or bombing the capital.
I think, but I was just saying. Well, fair enough. I don't know. It was I wasn't paying attention to it. I was angry that I wasn't watching Jeopardy.
Well, then don't report on specifics, pretty please.
Okay. Israel has attacked Iran directly. Is that?
Like I said, they said they're going to do it like 2 weeks ago. This isn't a surprise. I don't know.
I could go with it not happening though. But
I did see something interesting on how that could affect oil gas prices. And it can also be a crazy benefit to us, to where gas prices would just fucking plummet. But for the rest of the world, it would go way up. But it did say California's fucked. Essentially, like just the price of gas going up. I guess if Iran, cut their barrels or whatever, decided to not supply oil out to anybody else.
I mean, aren't they sanctioned to high hell anyway? So they don't.
To an extent, but I think they still produce oil. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure they do, and they sell it to China and.
I think, or maybe it was more so. I think that was maybe if they wanted to throw some weight and control the Strait of Hormuz, I believe is what it's called. It's like a major shipping route. I can't really picture it, but I guess it's off one of their borders, but I guess probably like the UAE and Saudis probably use that as well.
Yeah, probably. All right.
It kind of made sense, but at the same time, they were saying California would be fucked because California, I guess, is like one of the only states that has like no oil pipelines going to it.
All right.
So I guess they get all their oil from
off of tankers that come
basically.
out of the Pacific. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, like, we could enjoy some really cheap gas.
Sweet. Well, if it's that cheap, then it'll be cheap enough to put it on a truck and drive it over to California. It'd be cheaper than.
Right, but
I would think.
I mean, you need oil for lots of things.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I would think if it's just straight up gasoline for normal people,
right?
You got a fleet of those pilot coffee trucks.
That's a lot.
I don't remember. Was that you who told me a story about that?
About what?
Maybe it was cruising with an ex-girlflriend or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
behind a
but the pilot truck.
behind a pilot tanker, and it had coffee stuff on it. And like, that's a lot of coffee.
Yeah. I was like, man, I can't believe they haul around coffee in that. Oh, good. I was really hoping that she would get the joke, but she's like, they really do that? No. But no, to that point, it would be astronomically improbable logistically to have that many tanker trucks trying to go into California.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Sucks to be California in that one then.
But I mean, you're driving it from refineries.
Yeah. But I mean, you could get, but from Texas
you could
to
do
California,
it, but I mean,
the
supply is going to be really fucking hard.
Texas to California is not that far. I mean, Houston to LA you're right, it is. Whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to give them the benefits here. I mean, that's why we need that Keystone pipeline or whatever. I don't even know what the fuck's going on with that. All right, let's go to happy news. Happy news. Ready for some happy news? Happy news is as of the close of the early polls on Thursday, the 24th, and what Mr. Chris Davis knows came in on Friday, the 25th, but hasn't gotten the official count yet. We have broken 100,000 early votes.
What was, I guess, 2020's early vote totals? I think you pulled it up before.
I mean, I shared.
Just curious.
No, you're fine. We talked about we texted back and forth about it a little last night, and I thought it was a good conversation to go back into and go a little further. All right. The comparison in prior. All right. So just to back up a second, these comparisons are based on the close Tuesday. At the end of the day, Tuesday of early voting, we were at 80,845. So on Thursday and Friday combined, we've done another 20,000, according to Chris Davis, who is the guy that counts them. So, in comparison, in 2020, in early voting, they did 65.7. In 2016, we did 67,000. Now, the trend that to look at here is if you go back to 2016, 67,000 of 135,000 total votes cast. So it's a little less than 50%. Right?
Right.
So, and then in 2020, again, 65,000 of 153,000. So a little bit more than, less than. There were much more absentee ballots in 2020 because we were mid-pandemic. Right. And I believe absentee and early was in like the 68, 70 range. Again, a little bit less than 50% of the total vote.
Yeah.
So if we're at 100,000 right now, and the trend holds that the early absentee votes run a little less than half, we're going to break 200,000 votes in this election in Knox County. That is crazy.
Yeah. That
is crazy, given at least as of, right, in this election, he did it in a weird way. Registered voters, total registered voters is the sum of 64, 90, 50, and 131. Because he broke it down by age, but he didn't just give me a total number. That's the easier one down here. Registered voters by gender, 140 male, 165 female, 30 unknowns. So that'd be 305 plus 30, so 335,000 registered voters in Knox County. We're going to be over 200. So we're looking at a 2/3 of Knox County's population is going to vote. That's
getting better.
Crazy big. Now, again, going back to what we talked about last week, I think I think Kamala might actually win Knox County. Not that she's going to win the state, but if you take the precincts of Knox County, I think as a whole, I think Kamala Harris might win Knox County. I think they're the only because we don't have anything. You know, like you get some of these Kansas and Nebraska races that we've had. Like what was it, 22? Kansas had an abortion referendum on the ballot.
Believe so, yeah.
You know, and there was a huge turnout for that because there were a bunch of people that wanted to vote for the referendum. We don't have anything like that.
True.
So, like, it's not like, you know, it's not like Trump's going to bring any more than he usually brings out, I would think. And so what's the explanation for the extended turnout? I think some is more people coming back to vote for Trump. I think some of it's people that didn't vote last time because they told them not to early vote, and then they were scared of COVID on Election Day.
Right. I think there's definitely...
But it still doesn't. But it still doesn't equate the difference. You know what I mean? Like the difference that we're talking about of 100. Like I mean, we're talking 400 or 45 to 50,000 people.
I wonder how it compares to our population increase, which we haven't had a census in a while, so we don't really have great numbers.
I mean, I want to say last time that like the
I just wonder if it's proportional.
Right. The estimates for the estimates I think are in like the 25,000, 30,000 people since 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
So it would have to be. It's more than 1-to-1,
right?
If that's the case, and you know, honestly, like I think you said it, I think it's highly likely that a significant sum of people that are new haven't gotten their registration or their IDs updated and stuff like that.
I don't think I said that, but I appreciate you trying to give me credit for it.
I think it would. I think it's a reasonable assumption that if you just moved here within the last. You know, in this year, sometime in 2024, you know, like this is one of my favorite stories about my mom. When we moved from Florida to Wisconsin, it was the summer after second grade. So between second and third grade, we moved to Wisconsin. I had, it was called a spacer in my mouth. Is that my top jaw was too narrow and it was pushing my top jaw out a little bit.
Right.
It was widening my top set of teeth out because they were a little bit too narrow. My last orthodontics appointment where they tightened or loosened or adjusted or whatever, my mom made a point to be like, hey, we are moving. Like it was maybe April. And it's like, hey, we're moving to Wisconsin this summer. Is it something when we get there I need to make a point to get into the orthodontist quickly to get a check on this? Or is this something we got a little time on? And he's like, oh, you're fine. He's at least got another year or two with this thing. Don't worry about it. Okay. And so we get to Wisconsin, and I think it's probably October, November. We get settled in. A school started, all that kind of stuff. My mom gets me an orthodontics appointment. Go to this new orthodontist. He's like, we got to turn this thing over because basically it's a spring pushing out, and so he's like, he's like, they took it out, they flipped the spring over, so it was pulling back in because in that time it pushed it too far. My mom was so pissed off. My point in that silly story about my mom is that when you just move, there's a whole lot of shit to do, and getting your registration to vote updated is maybe not high on a lot of people's lists.
True.
So if that 30,000 new residents in Knox County is a true number since the comparable election in 2020, I could see it being a good percentage of those people haven't gotten their registration updated.
I mean, I did mine. I think it was automatic when I just updated my address with the USPS.
It's I think it's you can ask for, like it's an option. Like they said, you want to update your voter registration,
right? I think it almost prompted me to.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't had to do it in forever.
Would you like to update your voter registration? Or
I hear that it's super easy. I hear that it's super easy. Like when you get your driver's license updated, which I have to do in the next couple of weeks. Fuck.
Yeah, I heard that mentioned as well. That I guess now when you go in to renew your license or get your license, that I guess they'll ask you like, "Hey, do you want to update your voter registration or get registered
to the same exact fucking place, bro? Because nothing's changing for me. I just need to get a new ID because you told me I had to."
Right. I gotta have a real one.
No, I don't. I'm not getting a real.
Did you see? Speaking of Kamala, did you see what happened up in Wisconsin? Remember a motorcade was going down the highway? Apparently there was a drunk driver driving the wrong way on the interstate.
Nice.
And it was crazy, like highway footage of it. Like you see this car going. It was weird. I didn't really see any cops whip around.
Those are my people.
I guess they were just like, nope, just stay with the motorcade. We'll have local go get them. Yeah. You see a car just driving the wrong way on the highway.
Just let it go.
Damn, that was a near miss or potential near miss with.
I mean those fucking
the motorcades.
Those limos they roll around in, the actual presidential ones,
they're literal tanks.
They could probably get hit and just
keep going,
hit head on and just push it out of the way and keep rolling.
Right.
Kamala like, did somebody sneeze up in the front? What's happened? Is everybody okay? Bless you.
Right.
But okay, so to touch on another part though, as per usual, well, we don't know because we don't get to know. Like, 'cause remember when we were doing this in the primaries, we were talking Democrat, Republican on the early voting stats because it was which ballot people picked. We don't get to know what people are voting for, so we don't know demographics. Furthermore, we don't know of the 131 registered voters over 55, how many of them are in this 100 that voted. Like, that's the question. Yeah. And here's an answer to your earlier question too. Again, this is as of the close of registration.
That's new first time.
Right. Just under 8,000 first-time voters. I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, I understand what first-time voter means. I don't understand exactly how they...
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would necessarily just be, people that just turned 18. But, I mean, there's a lot of people that, even get to our age, they're like, I've never voted before.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and vote, whatever. I've put it off for years and just whatever.
It's important enough this time.
I mean, assuming it would kind of flag, at least like in the state system, if you never registered in the state of Tennessee, at least. They may not be able to know if you moved here, they probably wouldn't have record if you were registered in other states. But this may be more, just first time that person has registered in Tennessee would be my guess.
Right, but and used it. I mean, that's
right.
Like,
sorry, yeah. I'm curious how, if we do any kind of, as far as early voting. Oh, no, sorry, mail-in ballots. That's one thing. In mail-in ballots, if we do any kind of pre-sorting, because I know different states do theirs differently.
As I understand it, is that the
there's some like you cannot open it up. You can't open up the envelopes until like
all
8 p.m.
Right, all this early stuff
day.
They cannot get into until the close of polls on election day.
I want to say there's some states that have like some sort of pre-sorting. It doesn't. They don't start putting them through the machines, but there was some way to try to save some time.
I don't know. I mean, they obviously do because the second the poll, almost instantaneously when the polls close, we get the absentee numbers. The absentee numbers, not the early voting numbers.
Right.
I would think that they at least are sorting it by precinct. Because,
maybe that's what it was.
Because where you vote, you can vote wherever you want for early voting.
Right.
And so they probably have in the election commission office, they probably have boxes of first precinct, second precinct, third precinct, and as they come back with early voting, they sort them into those boxes.
That makes sense.
Because I'll have to run them through. Well, I guess they run them through the machine anyway, so the machine already has them, but they're probably physically sorting them too. Yeah. But I don't think they're allowed to share that.
So let's talk of we should be able to have results on like election night. I'm like, I don't think so. Like that's nothing that's ever really happened to an extent. We've got most of the results.
Tennessee will.
Tennessee does pretty well with it.
I mean, our system's pretty straightforward. It's
But I mean, depending on mail ballots, depending on the system that state or locale uses.
Well, because I mean, it's one of the things too is it depends how close an election is.
Right.
Like if it's a blowout, well, we have 10,000 absentee ballots, but this person has 30,000 more votes than the other person. It doesn't matter.
I've heard some cases like once they get to a point, like they really don't run like the rest of them.
Right. It doesn't matter how many absentee ballots voted for the other guy; they can't catch up.
Right.
I mean, that's where the whole race to 271 on the Electoral College comes from. It's like doesn't matter. Once you get to 271, it doesn't matter if Arizona's reported yet or not. If you're already there, you're already there.
Right.
I think Nixon was the only one that did it, but whatever.
Well, not necessarily as far as like figuring out the winner, I guess as far as like more results coming out. Or the results from that state coming out.
Yeah. I mean, the official results will,
we should be able to know, before going to bed on election night.
We should for Tennessee stuff, yes. I think we should be able to.
How about nationwide?
Our nationwide, no, because other states have their different rules on how they do stuff, and we can't, I mean, I wish other states were better, and as I wish, maybe because Tennessee sucks at voting is why we're so good at getting them out and done quick. But
like Colorado, like they've been doing mail-in ballots for 10 or 15 years or something, and have done it pretty well. So I mean, I don't know if a state like that, especially with the rural areas and whatnot, or more rural areas.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with the premise. Like, I think it's important that nobody knows, because I think it's a tendency of people that their actions will change if they knew what all the early and absentee results were. That might influence their decision, and I think it's important that we keep that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Under lock and key, and I think the only way to realistically do that, when you're talking about, we got like 50 precincts in Knox County.
No idea.
There's a lot of polling locations. And so when you have that many different places, and most of these people are not volunteers, they're paid employees, but they're also part-time, not really, they're part-time political dorks. I mean, if you're going to go volunteer at a polling station, you're a political dork at some level,
Maybe. I mean, I think my grandparents did it. They weren't political dorks, but they saw it as kind of like not a civic duty, but something they wanted to get into.
And my point is not to make fun of them for that, but my point is that many people who don't have a lot, like they're invested in the election process and they care about the way we do stuff like that. It wouldn't be hard for somebody, like it wouldn't be as surprising if somebody like said, "Hey, this precinct did this," before it's public information, if they had access to it. And so the system makes it so they don't have access to it. Because remember, like we talked about it, so basically what happens in one of our precincts, you get your paper ballot, you fill it out, you run it through the machine. That machine is not online at all.
Right.
And that's one of the security features on it. It's not online at all. And so when the poll closes, the last paper goes through, the papers go in a box, the box gets sealed, and then they pull the data cards out of all the machines.
Makes sense.
And they go into a different box that gets sealed. And somebody takes that box of data disks down to the Election Commission office. They get loaded into the machine. And then somebody else takes the box of paper ballots and puts it in the stack. And then if there's any questions, they can refer to the paper, whatever.
Makes sense.
And so, but they will print out, they get there, once the machine is done, they print off a report for that machine. And that's how the news organizations can report before Election Commission is reported.
Gotcha. They can get those numbers,
right? Because anybody can get those numbers. If you want to do it just for funsies, go hang out at the polling place when it closes, and you say, "Hey, I want to watch."
You could go in as an observer, but I would think once the polls close, I'm not sure if you could still observe.
Yeah,
the process.
you can observe. Yeah,
can you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like polling where you actually can't
right.
go and vote, but
you can go in there and you hang out, and they print off the report, and they say, and the person can. I don't know if they hand the report out and let people look at it, or post it on a wall,
right.
or they just read off the report to the people that are curious to stand around and look at it. And then that's how, the news people will send somebody out, or more. The reason I know this is because the party has somebody. So, Knox County Democratic Party, according to Matt Shears, will have somebody at every polling location at close. And so they'll be having their victory party or their election party at wherever. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as the polling locations close, all the people that are out will text Matt. Well, when Matt was the chair, would text Matt the results of all those precincts.
Yeah.
And then I think it's Jack Vaughn, who's the super dork. He is the numbers dork of the Democratic Party here in Knox County. He loads that into a spreadsheet, and he'll tell you who won every district within 5 minutes of the polls closing. But the data disks aren't even at the Election Commission yet for the Election Commission to start compiling that data.
Right.
And that's how they can announce, So anyway, this to me, I don't know. I've had conflicting reports from people that I know and trust that have more history and knowledge of Knox County and the way it votes and stuff like that than I do. But I honestly, sadly, the moral of the story is I think there will be stuff that is visually a significant change for Knox County, but actually structurally, I think it's just 18. I still think Elaine's losing 18. I think Brian's winning 18. Other than that, everybody's going to keep their seat, or everybody who's supposed to win their seat is going to win their seat.
I want to say I heard another. I hate to even mention it because I can't remember what it was, but I want to say I heard another take on what we were discussing the other day, as far as if it's advantageous for parties, to kind of continue pumping money into a district if they're seeing
that's a dead
gradual,
district,
right? But I'm blanking on what the new take of it was, and I was like, "Hey, we were just talking about that. That's another interesting aside to it." I'll have to see if I can't find it again.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That would be interesting to follow up on. So big turnout. Good job, Knox County. Way to go, us.
I've heard lots of reports of people that have been out early voting, not just in Tennessee, but just hour and a half, 2 hour long waiting lines, just about everywhere.
So they made a big point. If you get a chance to listen to the Compass Points podcast this week, we got to dig at Scott a little bit for being a Bama fan, loser, and he early voted, which he doesn't normally do. So every time we do a podcast and we're talking about Election Day, Scott and I are Election Day voters. We always talk about it. I was like, I like to do it on the day of. There's some pomp and circumstance. It just feels better, like you're doing the thing.
It's Election Day.
But he broke down and early voted this time because he didn't want to wait in line. And I was like, so how long did you wait in line? He's like, a while. And I was like, how long do you normally wait in line? He's like, not that long. He actually, he can't say because obviously he can't prove the negative because he's not waiting in the line on Election Day yet. He could find out, but.
True. I wonder if that was like, at least like locally, I wonder if that was most of the polling precincts, or I say a lot of people in this area probably go down to Downtown West or whatever. That's always been a big polling place, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the list. So Saturday, there is Saturday the 26th. You should come to Happy Holler after you vote on Saturday today, if you haven't voted already. He usually sends in the report. I didn't see it in the report this time. He usually sends the total number for each. I mean, they do it in the Compass newsletter too every day. He didn't do it. Of course, they don't do it the time I'm looking at it. Go back one. So this was on Thursday, which would be through Tuesday. That's our breakdown by early voting location. Downtown West did 11,200. The Village Green Shopping Center in Farragut did 10,000. Then Halls. What's after Halls? Expo Center in Northwest. New Harvest Park. So yes, the West Knox is the heaviest voting portion, or the West Knox early voting locations tend to take the heaviest weight almost every time. So that I would be curious to know that, like, of the 11,000 that use Downtown West, how many of those are in precincts that are near Downtown West? Like, how many of those would have been, like, Downtown West is in District 18, it's in State Senate 6, it's in Commission 4, it's in City 2, if it's in City? It's got to be in City 2. Yeah, it's in City District 2. Like, how many people are in those places if they waited for Election Day, it would theoretically be the same location.
Right.
Or how many of them are, I was going out to Sam's Club, and Downtown West is kind of close to Sam's Club, and I swung by Downtown West on my way to Sam's Club, voted, went to Sam's Club, got my giant bag of Doritos, went home.
Well, I think kind of to your point, as far as, it's kind of a tradition for you to go day of. So I think there's a lot of people that, they traditionally just go to early.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing that kind of leads, at least in the Downtown West location. Like, I think I did early voting there a long time ago. Like, I remember, the first time I voted. Just because of one of the close places that I knew of, but I think it's always been like
right. But when you did that, it was the closest early voting location to you personally. Therefore, you would have been in the districts that,
right?
Like, because it's a regular on Election Day, it's a polling place too,
right?
You probably were Rocky Hill when you were at Mom's house.
No, I never went there.
Huh? I bet
I think I did early when I was around this area.
Yeah. I bet your mom's house is Rocky Hill with me.
Yeah, I think it's where my dad goes, yeah.
Yeah. But, anybody that would vote at Rocky Hill, the closest early voting location is going to be Downtown West.
Right.
I'm talking about people that live in Hardin Valley or, hell, somebody lives in Powell that maybe works out here that, well, it's easy to get in and out of. I just went ahead and did it there, even though I have one at Halls not far from my house.
Yeah.
But this one was easier to get into, like, right after work or on my way into work or whatever. So, nonetheless, congratulations, Knox County, for getting out to vote. Keep doing it. You're amazing. You want a new chair? You looking for a chair for your place?
What kind of chair?
I'll show you. It's this chair right here. Boom, baby.
I think I saw that out there already. No,
yeah.
That thing's ugly. Well, you forgot that you gave me one years ago, and you don't even remember ever having this thing.
I do recall not recalling any of those things at all. But this, I thought this was a fun question that you asked. If you want to bring bring that one up.
What is that? I was wondering how much of the vehement disagreement on controversial topics comes down to a lack of sincerity or willingness to view the opposite side.
Right, and I think what I was trying to say in really bad, sober typing, in conversing with you is that I know I struggle with sourcing. I think part of it's a sourcing thing because I think a lot of us, myself included, I have a short list of sources where I get a lot of my news from. Mm-hmm. And I struggle with, like, how do you not know this?
Right.
And the inverse of that being is that, and you do it to me a lot, other people do it to me a lot, and I understand because I have non-traditional sources or whatever, but a lot of people assume that when they don't already know that from their sources that I'm making shit up.
Right.
Or maybe my sources are making shit up. Like, you know, like for you, I think you believe that I heard that, but that my source might not be that good. Like, I don't think you think I'm just making shit up.
Right.
I don't think you think I'm just making shit up. I think you're saying. I think I take it from at least people that I and maybe this is a perfect example of what you're talking about. For people I like and care about their opinions, I don't think they're attacking me personally when they think my sources suck. I think they're saying your sources suck and they're giving you bad information.
Right. And sometimes I wonder if anybody tells me something skeptical. There's also that chance that maybe they misread or misinterpreted the story.
Right.
Like I'm personally bad about seeing a story that's probably 15 paragraphs long, but I read 5 paragraphs and kind of form my opinion based upon. Sure,
and I think everybody does that. I mean, that's why I get so bent out of shape about some headlines sometimes because, like, the story goes into it. It's like, oh, okay, that's a decent story. It gives a lot of information, but that headline implied a lot of shit. Right. That the story doesn't even really touch on.
I mean, to an extent, it's not really clickbaity, but it kind of gets that. I mean,
you're
going to see that headline to intrigue you to read that story. It's
trying to fish you in at some level, and it sucks. But I mean, I think there's been some studies on it that like some significant, greater than half of the population would admit to the majority of their news coming from headlines more than actual stories.
Right.
It's like,
did you hear to an extent as far as like. If it's anything of interest, I'll definitely go into the story. But I will read like headlines of like basic things.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's
hurricane strikes Florida. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but I'm like, okay, shit, like it did hit Florida. Okay.
I think I don't know, like that. Maybe this is a follow up question to the question is like, how much do you think we suffer from what's it called? I can't remember the phrase of the
echo chamber, confirmation bias.
It's the acquiescing to the authority to a figure in authority or something like that. I can't remember what the phrase is. It's something like that where basically like that guy's in a lab coat, he must be a doctor. Right. So when he's telling me medical stuff, he must be right. When it's just a guy in a lab coat. Right. And I think some of the sources that I kind of giggle at least, I would say my 2 majors I'm not really worried about it in, but a couple of the other things that I check out and listen to or watch videos on or something like that, some of it's like just because you're on fucking YouTube doesn't mean you're an expert. Right. But you talk like an expert. Right. And you sound like an expert.
I've heard some of that, and a lot of people just kind of, they almost want to validate it by saying like, oh, well, that's independent journalism. And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, they have no editorial standards that they have to kind of hold themselves to. Not that a lot of media is great about it either, but there's something that you'd at least call them out on.
Yeah. And so I think
I'm just reporting what I see.
Right. Because I mean, I think because I think at a broader at a 10,000 foot view of that's the problem with social media is that if you see it in print, even if it's digital print on a fucking Facebook post, there's something in your head that kind of gives it more validity than there is.
I can see that.
And I think that is one of the problems we have socially is that we can't figure out exactly how to break those apart and be like, because like some of it too, it's like, like I could get behind like, okay, that's what you heard about it and that's your opinion on it. This is what I've heard about it. This is what my opinion on it is. But I think a lot of people don't want to hear that. They just want their opinion to be validated repeatedly.
True. Yeah.
And so like I get frustrated with that because a lot of times I'm the one that's like, no, that's not the truth on the thing, or this is not how that works, or something like that. Yeah. And it's like, well, I'm some guy with a big bushy beard that does a stupid podcast in my basement. What does he know? Why am I listening to him telling me I'm wrong? Because you shouldn't. I mean, really, you shouldn't. But it's just
I think we do pretty well to try to hedge ourselves. Like, I think, we don't really know much. Like, we say that very often. Like, we don't fucking know anything. We're just trying to learn.
I mean, but what's frustrating for me is there's shit that I do know.
Right.
that gets lost in how much I don't know.
Right.
And so it's like, well, he just talks out of his ass about so much stuff. He must be talking his ass. Like, I mean, I guess that's the what's his face, the crazy guy. The dude off this. What's his name? Damn it. How he got sued for the Sandy Hook thing?
Oh, Alex Jones.
Yeah, that's the Alex Jones thing. Like, he talks so much crazy shit that when he's right, nobody believes him.
Actually, saw an interesting. I guess some guy, some blonde-haired guy. Apparently, could be like the next heir to. I think he was involved in InfoWars, which was Alex Jones's like network or whatever.
Yeah.
But this guy was going around doing. I think he was at South Carolina University, asking. I think it was almost all exclusively women, or at least what I saw. Asking them, are you going to vote? Who are you going to vote for? But there was a comment by one young lady. She's like, okay, who are you going to vote for? She's like, Harris. He's like, oh, so you love Harris? And she had a great response. She was like, no. She's like, you don't have to love a candidate to support them.
Right. Well, that was the
like,
Sager.
I was like, that's really good.
That was the Sager thing. That was his monologue today. Or that was on Thursday. That's kind of his like. He's like.
I thought it was going to be a big gotcha, because he puts it on his network, and I was like, I got to give her respect for being like, actually no, like I don't have to love someone like to support.
I think one of the biggest eye-opening kind of things looking at presidential elections, one was from Jesse. Which Jesse's hard on the left, or they're hard on. It's got to be one or the other. And I disagree with him on that, but I understand where he's coming from on it. It's like, it is a blunt instrument. All the fine-tuning, all the really little stuff, all the niche stuff that you care about, president ain't going to touch. Mm-hmm. It's more of are we taking this giant ship of a nation we have, and are we going to, I don't want to say left or right, are we going to go a little bit east or west? Like, we're sailing through the wide open ocean. Are we going to push this boat a little bit to the port side or the starboard side? That's all the presidential election is. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. And the other one that I thought was very interesting is like electing when you're choosing who you're electing for president, this is chess, not checkers. This is a move this move may be the sacrificing of a pawn for the larger game of chess that we're playing and trying to shift the nation in the direction that we want. And whoever the we is very subjective, of course. And I thought that was a very interesting take on it.
I thought of it like that.
I did get in with Jennifer Owens. She did another bad school voucher analogy. I love Jennifer. She's one of my favorite politicos around town. She's racing a Hello Kitty Derby car tomorrow. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was basically the same as the park analogy, except it was with police and fire. And I was like, well, I live in the county. I don't pay taxes for fire service. That doesn't apply to me. She's like, yeah, but you could use it for anything.
I don't know. In a sense, you kind of do. I mean, you pay into taxes. The county has a contract basically with rural metro, so in a way,
that contract is giving rural metro exclusivity to operate and access to the 911.
You don't think there's any funds that go into rural metro? Yeah.
I mean, Knox County. I think Knox County.
I would have thought they kind of pay them for their services.
They paid. It's not rural metro anymore, but they pay Pinnacle or whoever for ambulatory services for indigent care, and stuff like that. But they don't pay. Yeah, they have a couple different contracts with the company. One of them is the exclusivity for the rights to be the one who 911 dispatches to when a call comes in. And there is some. I think there's a little bit in that they are obligated to, regardless, go out and put out a fire, but they still there is I think they do get paid by the county. Like if my house burned down, since I refused to pay for rural metro. And then I file bankruptcy because they drop a $15,000 bill for the 3 trucks that were out here for 10 hours or whatever.
Just kind of thinking something like that.
Right. And I file bankruptcy on it. I do think there's some stuff in place that the county does reimburse them a percentage or something like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that as you were saying. I was like, well, what about like an abandoned building that's not, they don't have a residence to actually send a bill to?
Well, I mean, somebody owns it, but...
Right. But kind of in your thought, if a neighbor called it in, they're going to respond to it. Maybe that person would have been perfectly fine with that house or building just burning down. But the neighbors called rural metro. Rural metro showed up, put it out, and they're like, I was like, I didn't care if it was on fire.
I mean, there.
Can't send me a bill. I didn't call you guys.
I mean, this is not going to sound like me at all. Apparently it had been floated. Jacobs had floated a little bit, but there's no way he can do it without raising taxes, and he will not raise taxes, so he won't do it. But he floated absorbing rural metro into a county entity, basically having Knox County Fire Department. and having it, maybe even having a unified city county fire service. There's no way the county could do it. But I mean, to my argument that Knox County is getting too big for its actions, that falls under the, like, I think if you're in a real like metro, like urban and dense suburban, the private fire becomes a little bit more problematic, and that to have a public fire department seems the appropriate move. Because it's just getting to the point where there's too many people that live too close to each other that you can't have people like me who refuse to pay for it putting my neighbors at risk when my house catches fire. Which is why they have to come out anyway. That's part of their contract. But, instead of letting people like me be an asshole and Rural Metro have to go through all their bullshit to try to get the funds they need to do their job, just roll it into taxes and be done with it.
I don't think
Only if we go Metro.
Only if we go Metro.
I will sign off on that if we go Metro. But then again, you can still get up there in parts of Halls where you got 10 miles between houses,
right?
And
they talked about, or we talked about before when we were talking about, I guess the contract or whatever, and how they were, the city or the county was asking them, like, you guys got to get your response times up, or your response times look shitty.
Yeah.
I want to say that was in part of like the contract. Wasn't that part of the dispute?
Oh yeah, it's broken down by like regions and how fast they have to be.
Right.
Their response times, depending on like, X, Y, or Z, it could be for this area, it could be up to 15 minutes. For this area, it has to be like 5.
Right.
So it'd be an interesting thing to break down the full contract and every little nook and cranny of it, because, I don't know how much. But again, like to back into like the philosophical points that I get to, like, I am okay with a government entity doing that, but it's an incentives game. You got to make the game right to get what you want. If you're if you're Knox County, you say, this is the game we're going to play. This is what we want out of it. And then the game is the back and forth of, okay, well, who's willing to do it for what we're willing to pay for it? And then you have to make the negotiations to go from there. But it's like, anytime one of these agencies that is a government paid for private company, isn't fulfilling its duties, they don't, like, we got to go, like, there's got to be a stick to that contract. Like,
right. And I would think there's probably not too many, at least in this area, that I guess, provide that kind of services, that have that many engines, ambulances, etc.
I don't know about fire, but I mean, there's a pretty good sum. I mean, we have City of Knoxville Fire Department has ambulatory service, and then we have 3 other ambulance companies that work in Knox County. Only Premier.
I think it's Premier. Those ones kind of like little sprinter vans that drive around.
They're the contract with Knox County now. Rural Metro is no longer the contract for ambulatory services.
Okay.
Now, Rural Metro still operates ambulances, and I guess they probably moved some trucks to other places where they needed them and stuff like that, but because most of what they do is going to be just like standard transfers, like planned transfers and stuff like that of people that need to get, need to get from hospital A to B, or somebody who's it's not an emergency, but needs to get picked up and properly, cared for, taken to a hospital from their home.
Right.
But isn't like, having to...
Right, they can't get into a car and ride or drive, like they need to be stretchered or whatever.
Right, and that's part of what you pay for if you're a Rural Metro customer, is you get that coverage. And that your ambulance is paid for too.
I always thought it was just for fire.
No, it's both, because that was one of the things when they were giving me the hard sell. It's like, well, if you ever need an ambulance, that's covered too. And it's like, I'm not that old yet, buddy.
What did you just say?
If you fall off a ladder or something, I'm not saying you're going to have a heart attack. You're not that old.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay. Good save. Good save. How did we get talking about ambulances again?
I think you brought it up.
I'm sure I did. I bring up everything.
You brought up that Jacobs, I guess, had mentioned it recently.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, it's all like, I don't know. I can go on my Metro rant again, but I won't go on my Metro rant again.
Thank you.
I think we're moving in that. I think we just need to go ahead and move in that direction. There's been some significant sign vandalism again. There's some active...
In Knox County? I saw something about it, like nationally. There was a couple teenagers that got busted somewhere, but I didn't see where it was.
There's some active cases. Knox County Sheriff's Office is pursuing active cases on signs. Or maybe the city police. I don't know. There's some active cases on vandalism going around. Like at the polling center, like at some of these early polling, like one of them was at the Knox County, the Expo Center one on Clinton Highway.
Yeah.
There were signs that were out in front of the expo center that had been broken and picked up and thrown in the dumpster.
Is it more one party versus the other?
It's all Democrats' signs that are getting torn up this time.
Gotcha.
What else? I got a text today about Goldberg being like, that's one of the ones like, I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like there was a new flyer over here.
I get new there every day. There's another one over there that came in the mail today. I haven't sorted through yet.
Did actually have a door knocker come to the house, I think yesterday or the day before. But
did I tell you about my new favorite joke about politicians?
No.
None of them care about the trees.
Sure.
I mean, if they're going to set
this could be recycled paper, you know.
Where'd it go? Fuck, where'd it go? Damn it. No, it's today. Big spending Brian Goldberg will cost Shelby County taxpayers.
Any local guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, it's one of those like, okay, one, I looked it up. There was a different version of the same one that came out, and they cited it. I think it's on one of the ones that you have over there in the stack. That like cited it as like according to his website. And it's like, okay, so his plan, according to his website, is going to cost a lot of money. And so I went to his website looking for his plan. Dominica's, that's a Senate race.
I was just curious at the headline of it. I was like, huh, what?
I mean, I don't know. I looking through his stuff, it's like, it doesn't matter. And I guess this is the dorkitude that I'm at, I suppose, is it doesn't matter. He can win. And none of his plan's going to happen anyway.
Right.
You know? So, again, for Shelby County, I still don't understand that part of it. But, he did have Eddie Manis and Janet Testerman, both whom have Eddie Manis, former 18, and then Janet Testerman, who ran primary against Elaine Davis in the last run for 18, have both endorsed him.
Damn.
Which, it's not surprising to me. I mean, it's not surprising. Eddie Manis isn't surprising to me. I don't know what the Janet deal is. I don't really quite understand. Like, the Testerman name apparently has some history in Knoxville politics that I don't quite understand. I know her dad was a city. I think it was her dad was a city councilor or something like that, too. But I don't recall the deets on it. But I don't like. It's just like the. I guess the point of why I'm bringing this part up in this particular text I got today is like that is built around the fact that you who receive the text don't understand how Tennessee state government works.
Right, which
and actually,
admittedly, most don't.
To be fair,
we didn't know for the longest time.
True, but and maybe more directly is you don't understand how government works. Period. Like one, I don't know. Like, there's so many different parts of this. It's just like one guy in a Knoxville district is not going to change shit as the way the state government works. Now, you could try to make the argument that this is going to change, like this is going to start the wave of whatever, the blue wave of Tennessee, and then they're all going to be Democrats all of a sudden. But it's like, again,
got snowball's chance.
The average Joe doesn't know. I don't know. I guess I'm just stuck on. It's just like this is literally. My angry version of it is like, you're an idiot and don't know any better. You're going to believe this bullshit that I throw at you.
This is just trying to get people with the knee-jerk reaction. Like, I wasn't going to out voting, but all of a sudden, like, all right, never mind. This is the last straw. I got to go vote now. Like, I can't let this happen.
But it's just, even the wording is so dumb. Like,
I mean, they highlight, like, explode and underline, and cost of living will explode. There's a big
inflation
ball
fueling agenda, but it's like nowhere. Like, what agenda? Like, is it like? Yes, he is a Democrat. He wants to expand. He wants to expand Medicare, which all the Democrats in Tennessee have wanted to do forever. Which, as I understand it, is federal funds that we're paying taxes for anyway. We're just not getting it back. But it's a risky plan, and it just keeps referencing this plan that doesn't exist. I don't see any plan that says he wants to spend a bunch of money. And even if he did have a plan that said he wanted to spend as much money, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If he wins, he'll be one of 17 Democrats in the 200-something member Tennessee House, or 100 member. Sorry, it's 99. 99 or 100. I can't remember exactly what it was. You know,
kind of to your understanding point, it's like he wants to spend money, your money. It's like, well, yeah, it's what legislators do. They spend our tax money.
But what does he want to? He wants to spend it on risky things. What are the risky things? Like he wants to spend it on healthcare. That sucks. That's super risky.
Not when I tell you what kind of health care. Ooh, boogie.
He wants trans-affirming care. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Do the rest of us get better health care as a result? I might be okay with it. But yeah, again, that's like, you know, it's the same with your text that you always get about. Like, I think it's funny the different style text you get to mine. Mine are all like candidate specific. Most of mine aren't fundraisers. Most of mine are vote for the right person because we're telling you to.
I think I looked up. I think it did say something about a PAC on one because I was like, who the fuck am I getting this shit from?
This was by the Tennessee. That's the Tennessee House Republican Caucus. Really doesn't want him.
Yeah. We don't like you.
The question I guess we should be asking though is that they don't want him or they do want Elaine? Because there's two different answers to the same question. Right. Do they really like Elaine Davis because she does what they tell her to? I mean, they certainly don't like him because he's definitely not going to do what they tell him to. But, I mean, that's why they didn't like Eddie. And so, I don't know. Like, cause, I don't know. It's interesting because District 18 with its gerrymandered mess is so weird. And the only thing that makes it not likely that he wins 18 is there's a whole big chunk of the rural section of Knox County, South Knox County, that's in 18. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's like, but there's so many people in West Knoxville that are in 18, and like again on the yard sign election, he's kicking ass taking names around my neighborhood.
Is he?
Yeah, like everywhere I end up driving, I see a ton more. I'll see
if I can't fix that.
There's a few Elaine Davises, and it's again my favorite is every yard that I see in Elaine Davis, it's vote no on 2, and it's like
is it? Yeah, I think. Yeah. I remember which one. One of the local news had a story on that and had quoted Sam McKinsey and somebody else that had opposing views.
Sam Butler.
I can't remember the other.
That'll
name.
Be funny because if that's true, that's actually they referenced. It is likely that they referenced the Compass podcast for that because we had them as a debate.
It's WATE.
Yeah, but if they did, if it was the two Sams. I mean, I'm sure they probably could have talked to him separately, but we had a segment on last week's podcast with the two of them discussing why they came to their conclusions and stuff like that.
Let's see here. It was Sam McKinsey and Dr. Robinson Jr., a former city council member.
Gotcha. All right. Well, then that was not a Compass reference one. Yeah. But McKinsey's been very vocal on his vote. McKinsey was the no, right?
I said it was 8-1. I'm not sure if it said. Well, no, I think that was a city vote. I think that it mentioned it was like an 8-1 on something.
Yeah, but I'm saying as far as them talking about vote no on 2,
that he was what? Sorry,
I think so. McKinsey is a vote no.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is again, it's interesting. Sam McKinsey, who is about as politically diametrically opposite to Elaine Davis as possible. They're on the same side of this one.
Wait, all of us know. Like, I think he wants to keep it as it is. Keep the at-larges.
Keep it.
So I don't know if that's a no or yes. I know we talked about it, but I already forgot what no was.
Don't worry about it. You don't have to vote for that.
I know
anyway.
exactly. Exactly. I got to deal with.
I don't get to vote for it. I'm mad. No. I want to vote no. I want to vote no bad. I want it to be districts because it makes sense. That is the way we vote for everything else. Like unless it is an at-large seat, like because what I think we discovered last week is Oak Ridge is all at-large, but there's only 3.
It seemed like one of the arguments. I don't think it's not necessarily an argument that you've made. Was that having the districts should make people more reliant upon that particular council person. To where the at-large, it's kind of like well nobody's right. Nobody's responsible.
Well, it's
And I think it's kind of a misnomer.
Well, no, you could kind of...
Because I know you said you ran into it, I think.
Because you can play it both ways. If it's all at large, then everybody is responsible to you because you voted for everybody that's on there.
Right.
But inversely, if it's all at large, I could say, I've got other stuff going on, deal with somebody else because there's 8 other people than me that are responsive to that should be responsive to you.
I see how it can get kind of like pushed off to somebody else, but not necessarily. It could also go in the inverse, and then you have more people that you can call. Be like, hey, I'm really busy, but I know somebody that's not working on a project right now, and they'd be able to help you. You've got more odds of getting someone to help you versus if you've only got one person you can go to, and you're not getting any kind of response back. Who else could you go to?
Right. Well, the 3 at larges that are already.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You already have you have 4 in what the logical system would be. If no wins, you have 4 people that are responsive to you, not counting the mayor either. So 5 if you count the mayor themselves. You have 3 at larges, the mayor and your district.
Right. I'm trying to kind of look at both sides of it.
But again, like you hate my example of it, but then like in that same sense, then
I know.
Nancy Pelosi should be answering my phone calls because I'm her constituent in that sense. It's the most extreme version I can make up, but it's literally the same thing. Literally.
I agree. in premise, yes, but it's a much more expanded.
Yes, it's the most extreme version possible, but it's the same freaking thing. Yeah. Like I understand it in a smaller municipality like Oak Ridge, where Oak Ridge is like 90,000 people.
No idea.
I don't think it's 6 figures. I don't think it's 100,000 people in the city of Oak Ridge. Anderson County, with the different municipalities they have, probably.
Right, because you got Clinton
and Rocky Top, as we learned last week, because that's on
Aller Springs.
Yeah. But like I understand, like a city like Oak Ridge having like 5 at large, and that's it, or 3 at large, and that's it. I mean, hell, Farragut, the township of Farragut has wards, and that's basically a different silly way to say district. And you're voted on by ward, I think. Actually, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. What do you find it?
First it says just over 34,000 for Oak Ridge.
Ooh, that's way smaller than I thought.
It says it's 2024. I don't know.
It might be right. A lot of people commute into there for work. But that inversely, a lot of people commute out of there to work in Knoxville, too.
Let's see what the census was.
Many moons ago. It's 4 years ago. It's way too old.
This is 2023, yeah. Just under 40,000.
Okay. Yeah, but still, with 30,000 people,
right,
and you have 3 at-larges, that's like 10,000 per person. That's not a crazy number. But when you're in Knoxville and you have 180,000 people and split into 5 districts, that's 30,000 people per.
Yeah. Well,
no, that's 37,000 people per.
Sorry, I thought I could trust you on that math.
Well, 30 would be 150. 30 times 5.
I'm not crunching numbers in my head.
Yeah. Anyway, it'd be a little over 30,000 people per district. And that's the entire population, so... Yeah. Anyway, I think it just makes like when I could get it in a smaller municipality. It just doesn't make sense in a city as large as Knoxville. That's.
I see your point completely.
To beat the dead horse that has been beaten.
I'm not saying you're wrong on your view on.
I might be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a resident. It doesn't really matter.
Well, it's either it's kind of pretty much A or B in this situation.
I think I'm right. But it's not. It's an opinion piece. I just think it's. But it's not. My opinion is irrelevant because I'm not a resident. I don't get to vote on it.
Yeah.
I will say for the 10,000th time, I think it's the right solution, but I don't think it was gone about the way it should have been. I think it should have been brought up by the city on its own right. I don't like that it was passed down by the state. What is it to Elaine Davis in District 18 to have, yes, she is a resident here, but really it's Elaine Davis on behalf of Eric and Eric's attempts to get right-leaning people into city council.
I wonder if Nashville, Memphis, or Chattanooga does this any different. Because I wonder if this was maybe kind of like a semi...
Nashville's got 40 city councilors, and they're all districted.
Really? I thought maybe this might have been some kind of got a sly GOP thing to try to break up, more Democratic cities or whatever.
I mean, yes, it is a sly GOP thing to try to get some Republicans in city council in Knoxville.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, because look, Eric is not wrong. Whoever Seema beat the first time around, and I cannot recall who it was, probably would have beat her if it was only district. Like she lost in the primary in the district. She came in second, but significantly behind in second. But then when it went citywide, she won. And so it's a solid argument to say that she probably wouldn't have won that seat.
Right, if we were under the standard format, right?
Had it been that way, and it's like, and even forget the Democrat-Republican part of it. In so far as Knoxville as a entity is a left-leaning entity, they truly in the city of Knoxville, if it's a citywide race, the Democrat's going to win, even though they quote unquote run nonpartisan races. Inversely, in Knox County, if it's a countywide race, the county's going to win. If we didn't have districts in Knox County, if we did the same format in Knox County as the city does in the city, we would have all Republicans on county commission. Well, we have 3 Democrats in county commission now because they run by districts, and those districts are more heavily democratically aligned. And so if you took the at-larges out of county commission, that is probably a fairly close makeup of, okay, so there's 6 districts. 6, 7. No, 7 and 2 in commission. And so I think there's 4 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And so if you run that, like at that, whatever percentage that is, what's
I told you I'm not crunching numbers right now.
So it's like 40-ish percent.
Get your calculator out.
Yeah, 40-ish percent. I would say that's fairly accurate. 40-ish percent of Knox County leans left.
You say of the county or city?
County.
Okay. You think so?
Yeah. I would think that's fairly accurate. Like that 3 out of 7 people in Knox County probably would identify as left-leaning Democrats, liberal, whatever you want to call it.
Do you think that kind of matches up as far as representation?
It does, except for the 2 at-large county commission seats are Republicans, and so that shifts the whole body further right than the reality of Knox County. And so inversely, the city is all Democrats. It's just how far of a Democrat you are. Like Amelia Parker is a far left Democrat versus when Janet was there, she was a more like she might have been. She's not a Republican. I don't know what to call her. She's a very centrist at best.
Moderate,
right? And so, had the District 3, had the person in District 3 that Seema ended up beating actually been on, I think that would be an accurate representation of the city of Knoxville. I think 1 in 6 people that live in the city of Knoxville are probably right-leaning people. I think that's fairly accurate as an actual demographic comparison. And so, yes, the Democrats will get their way in the city because 5 of 6 of them are Democrats. But that one person who's like, hey, I'm the other person here, is actually representing a decent number of people in the city who think similarly to them. And so if that was the way, if that's the goal, is to have that body actually representative, that's why I hate, like the Tennessee House is not representative of the state of Tennessee. It's just not. Right. We're not 80-something% Republican in Tennessee. We're like 60-something%. It should be 65 Republicans and 35 or so Democrats. That would be more accurate to the population of Tennessee. But since the Republicans are in charge, they can do they can kind of do what they want, and they gerrymander districts, and they do all the things that they can do.
The party in control gets to control any kind of redistricting when it's done.
Sure.
Right.
And again, like you go to other states, this same conversation. What was we were talking about? The dude that I got the flyer from, I got the text from in Rhode Island. Was it Connecticut?
Something like that, yeah.
Like it's the inverse there. That like his flyer read like that state legislature is all Democrats, and he's like, I want to get on the hill and try to break up this supermajority of Democrats here.
Right. And
it's like, yeah, get after it, buddy. Like, I don't know what the demographic of your state is. I don't know if it's accurate. They might all be Democrats. It may not. It may be accurate.
Right. That
97% of that state is, and so 97% of their representation is.
Highly doubtful, but
Yeah, but I mean, again, if we keep rolling it up to the national level, I don't think we do a very good job with our House representation. But I do think it's pretty close, like, to the reality. I do think Americans are probably, like, any given day of the week, depending on how you ask and run a poll, we're like 55-45, and we switch left or right, Republican, Democrat, pretty regularly.
I mean, I think there's definitely some truth to a lot of the kind of political pundits or whatever that say that there's a good chunk of people right around the middle.
Right.
I mean, there are such things as liberal Republicans and conservative Democrats.
Right. Pro-life Democrats and pro-choice Republicans. They exist.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, but I think that's I poorly stated what I was trying to get to. Is like the reality is that I think that the majority of, like, 80% of Americans are somewhere in the middle, and it's only 20 or 10 or 15 on either side.
Right.
Realistically, it's just they're stuck choosing which thing's more important to them, which policy, which ideal, whatever, which feel about the candidate / party at the time hits them better.
Yeah. My roommate asked me kind of a weird thing. I can't remember how he really kind of felt on it. But as far as, we were talking about political divisions. He was wondering what effect I thought it would have if we basically took all 50 states and split them into half, to where essentially I guess we would have 100 kind of state districts. Maybe not necessarily just splitting each state, but I think in his mind he thought maybe that, like, half a state, that they could even, like, move around to where, like, half the state would be Republican, the other half would be Democrat. I was like, even functionally, I was like, you'd see the same thing that we have pretty much in the House and Senate right now, where it's split damn near 50-50, and you don't really get much done unless you're willing to go across the aisle on any issue. So I was like, no, I don't think splitting the U.S. splitting the U.S. in half is going to cause any kind of fix to kind of party divide or getting legislation accomplished. I was like, interesting thought, but no, that's not any kind of solution.
All right, run that back one more time.
I appreciate you paying attention while I was trying to tell you
that.
No,
it was very confusing. I was trying to help my kid do a thing at the same time, but right. So split each state in half?
Basically.
So I think
his thought was essentially like the two parties could have, like, areas of the state to move to. But I thought even just functionally fine if you did that.
Okay, yeah, because that's why I was confused. Like, it sounded like he was saying, like, you should physically.
I think that was implication, but I was thinking
if you call yourself a Democrat, you should move to the half of the state that's full of Democrats?
I think maybe that's kind of what his leaning was. If he thought that maybe that would be a kind of a fix to it. I may be reading into it. Maybe he may have just been asking me, if it would help if splitting a state in half.
I mean, if no matter what...
And I was like, you're just doubling the districts, and if it's still split 50-50, you're still same situation.
But and if no matter what, I mean... Yeah, it doesn't make any... No. Because that already exists. Then if you're a Democrat and the solution is to move to where people agree with you, then move to California or move to New York. Move to the version of Democrats that you like better, because there's California Democrats and New York Democrats are not the same.
True.
Figure out which...
And even then, you've got strong GOP holds in areas of both of those quote-unquote, hardcore blue states.
Indeed. But what is that? I don't know, like, what's the potential upside there, other than you don't have to interact with people that you disagree with politically?
I don't know.
That's a weird thought. Like, I thought, because this is why I was confused, because I thought I was hearing that, which is crazy. But then I thought I was hearing, well, what if every state had a Republican and a Democrat as their senator? And so no matter what, this House or the Senate was always 50-50.
All right, that was kind of my thought of fleshing it out. I'm like, okay, sure, you split it in half.
By party, and then you would have, I don't know, you'd have an interesting breakdown insofar as the Democrat for the state of Tennessee would be an interesting person in the Senate, because you still have to get reelected as a Democrat. Like, how would that election work? Assuming it would be, you would have one race for your Republican senator, one race for your Democrat senator. Everybody would still get to vote on it, right? Or only if you're registered for one party or the other?
I don't know.
Because if you're a Democrat in the state of Tennessee and you have to get elected again, but the Tennesseans have to elect some Democrat to the seat, it's going to change your politics
All right.
Because you might vote for something in the Senate that the quote-unquote Democrats aren't big fans of, but it's good for you and your district or in Tennessee as a Democrat senator in Tennessee.
All right. I even kind of went into...
That'd be a fun rabbit hole.
I think I mentioned it before about learning about kind of like the formation of states when I read about kind of the history of West Virginia being formed a state.
Yeah.
Because I was also thinking, logically, if you're going to split a state in half, I was like, most people have to agree. Most people in the state have to agree that, yes, we do want to split the state in half.
Get rid of those fucks.
That's only if you are not taking any land from any other state. But you can, like a state could bisect itself if it wanted, if the population wanted to vote that way.
Right. A section of the state would have to be like, yeah, get rid of those fucks. They're like, yeah, we don't want to be associated with those fucks, even though we're still...
Well, no, they would have to agree. You'd have to have a proposal of like where we're going to draw a line or whatever.
Yeah, but say it but you'd have to have a significant number of people that would be like, yes, make them other, and then you'd have to have the significant number of people that are the other that say we want to be other. That's the only way you're going to win that. Yes, you're right. The ballot initiative question will be: Do we want to release territory from this line to the western end of the state to become its own state?
Right.
Yes or no? Now, I guess maybe that's what it. So, if some people are going to say yes because we want to get rid of those fucks, some people are going to say yes because they are those fucks and want to be separated from those other fucks.
Possibly.
That was kind of the joke I was trying to make.
Gotcha. No, because there's talking like Washington, Western Oregon, kind of wanting to take sections of those states and kind of join Idaho.
Eastern.
Eastern. Yeah, eastern sides of Oregon. I don't know if it's just one or both.
Yeah, both of them talked about it in different ways.
Yeah.
Like that
would be a crazy, because that's essentially where you're combining lands, which... That'd be
I guess all three states come up with the thing, and they have to agree on it together, and the federal government would have to agree on it somewhere too.
Kind of, yeah. But I think it's where you get to like constitutional issues,
right? Because the premise being because Eastern Oregon and Eastern Washington
are more. They feel they more politically align with.
They're completely
Idaho.
Different from the coastal parts because the coastal parts are the big city parts. But it's the same as here.
Yeah, that's what I say. That's the same in any state,
right? It's the rural parts don't like the city parts, and the city parts don't like the rural parts.
Yeah.
Now, I could see... the argument is that we're not getting represented because there's so much damn population over there that they're overrepresentative.
Right. I don't think it's necessarily the urban disliking the rural. I think it's probably more...
there's a great story out of British Columbia on where some of these kind of political issues come to a head. This is a couple of years ago, British Columbia, which like 80-something%...
The U.S. side or Canadian side?
Canadian side.
Okay.
The actual province
of
British Columbia.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was thinking Vancouver. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're correct in that Vancouver holds like 80% of the population of British Columbia.
Damn, is that much?
It's huge. It's a huge
property. But,
right, but there's nobody lives any further north than that. And like there are some whatever. Anyway,
sorry. Yeah.
The whole story goes that a group had gotten together, an animal rights group had got together and got some groundswell in Vancouver about stopping bear hunting.
Right.
And it ended up going into the legislature, and then the legislature banned bear hunting. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Like those of us that live way up in the middle of the province here in Canada. One, bear hunting is a way of life just functionally, but two, it's not this is an actual population control game that we're playing here. This isn't just a we like to go kill things thing.
Right.
This is true conservation in the most efficient sense, is that I go kill a bear, I have food for the rest of the winter. That bear being dead helps keep the population in control, so that guy over there that has some sort of weird farm in the cold weather climate can keep his cattle alive, so that he can produce those cattle to send to the city, so you can have hamburgers.
I don't think they have much cattle farming.
I don't know what it is.
When you talk about that cold.
There's some.
But I didn't realize they were overpopulated. That they actually have population control.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. That's what ended up happening is a couple people got killed by bears, and then it did some damage to livestock and or some commercial farming that was going on up there. Mm-hmm. And so then the province was hiring professional hunters
right.
to go out and kill the bears because they had to do something about the population.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's kind of similar to here, to where if they, probably in the Smokies, I'm assuming they kind of have to where if a certain bear, because a lot of them are tagged and like numbered or whatever.
Yeah.
If they find that like a certain bear is being more active or more aggressive, I think they will go out and search out that particular.
Right. Pick it
bear.
up, take it somewhere else, do whatever. And when they can, but I mean,
Right.
but again, like I don't know how our black bear population sits. I don't think it's in any danger by any stretch, but I don't think it's in an abundance.
I saw a really interesting thing on PBS the other night that they were in the Congo. I guess it was like kind of in this small village that was kind of torn. I forget what exactly they were calling, but it was basically kind of like a introduce more human activity or human exposure to the silverback gorillas. As far as being able to use it for tourism, I forget the word they used, but basically kind of they would go out like almost like every day to where the guerrilla troops would see the people. And
Right.
it was trying to kind of acclimate them to possibly, because the small town was like, hey, we're struggling, we do some tourism and it's
You're
one way
not a
for us to
problem.
make money.
You said doo-doo.
Doo-doo.
Sorry.
It was kind of interesting in the concept, and they're seeing, they're seeing both sides of it. It's not working perfectly. They are wild animals.
Yeah.
It's a risk
Right.
to take
But
to
I mean,
try to acclimate them to people.
It's one of
being
those
that
things,
close
and
to them.
one of the hunting things that I was reading about if you're going to buy property,
Right.
is that if you're going to use like a side-by-side or any motorized vehicle to go out and hunt when it's season, you need to use that vehicle on and off throughout the year on your property, because if you only use it when you're hunting, that's a new sound. It's weird. They freak out and run away.
Right.
But if you're using it all the time and they've heard it a bunch of times and they don't die afterwards, they're like, that's just a sound like an airplane flying over or a tree falling. That's just a sound that happens in my life. It's not that big a deal.
And they were focusing on, I guess, like the alpha male, that they, I guess, knew like the history of it, that it was a young gorilla when, I guess, like its parents and family, I guess when there was some actual like war fighting going on in Congo. To where I think that was one reason why that particular like alpha male silverback was like super aggressive.
Yeah.
Was kind of like, traumatized from its, and the guy sitting there holding, this big camera, and he's like, they're speaking French, but the Congo was a former French colony, but he's sitting there holding this big camera that's got, kind of bars on it or whatever. He's like, this kind of looks like a gun too.
Yeah.
He's like, he's probably looking at me, thinking that I could be a threat as well.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you ever go up to that elk observation thing.
Never been up there. I've heard about it.
They don't give a shit. They don't care. I mean, it's the one like you didn't.
Well,
see
I've been
one.
to Elkmont. Yeah, I've like driven the car on the road, and they're 20 feet off the road.
Yeah.
And I roll my window down, sat there for a few minutes. They're just looking over at me, chewing on grass.
And they don't care because that's not you're not a threat to them. They've never that you've never been a threat to them.
Right.
And so once they get that internalized, then you have less problems if you are trying to do a tourism kind of thing.
Right.
But inversely, then they start wandering into town and
right. And I think that was kind of the other fear that they had, that if poachers did start coming out, that there wouldn't be that natural fear.
right. Or that the lack of fear would let them come into the populated areas
Or that too. Yeah.
and wreck shit and do
I
whatever.
don't think they had much issue with that.
But this going back to the original point being is that I could see from people that live in Eastern Oregon and Washington having that same kind of situation that people that lived in Northern British Columbia had to deal with in Vancouver. It's like, you guys are making all the decisions for the state. We understand the math here. Like, we get it. It makes sense. Like, logically,
Right, but
representational government.
Still sucks for us.
But it's not that it just sucks for us. It's that you guys are doing stuff that, to us, that doesn't affect you. You're putting regulations and rules in place that we have to do stuff about, like we can't hunt bears, we can't, XYZ.
Yeah.
We can't farm certain products out here that we used to farm, or we have to change the way we're doing X, Y, and Z because you're putting regulations in place that don't affect you. And we have
Are there other regulations they mentioned, or was it just pretty much kind of around just kind of like the bear?
That's the whole story on that particular one, but that's just an illustration of how a situation like that can happen.
Yeah, I don't know too many of the issues that Oregon or Eastern Oregon and Washington. I figured it was just kind of more of a kind of general kind of issues that they had.
I mean, I think it's on some level, yes, it's the urban.
Right.
I think if we've had a new urbanization kind of thing over the last couple decades. I think for a long time. Like especially in like the Northeast, like it's all urban, and there isn't a lot of rural left. except for New Jersey because nobody wants to be there anyway.
No. There's a good bit of rural.
Sure, but again, population and politically, they're kind of used to it because it's always been there. But I think, especially like some of these northwestern, what do they call it? Far northwest? What do they call it up there? Not northwestern.
Yeah, northwest.
Okay,
Pacific
Northwest. There we go.
Gotcha.
Thank you. That's what they call it. Some of that Pacific Northwest is that population has boomed. The changes are functionally inside smaller gaps. Where it was generations of New Yorkers that got used to how much influence the city of New York and Buffalo and the other major metropolitan areas had on the rest of the state legislature, even though there is giant sections of fairly rural parts of New York.
Oh, yeah. We got the upstates.
But those people have been but it's been that way for generations to them, where you have people in Eastern Oregon where it's just a couple of decades. You got a guy that's been farming his land for 20 years, and he's 50 years old. He's got time ahead of him, and he's seen his entire ability to do his job change because of crazy stuff that the city folks are doing. I think that's
Oregon,
the issue.
I mean, Portland's always been a major city.
I don't know, compared to the state population as a whole. I don't know. I don't think it's
gone up dramatically.
Dramatically, I don't know.
Drastically helps to mix it up drastically and dramatically.
But yeah, it may not be. I don't know. But I think some of the regulatory. I think the regulatory apparatus I think the regulatory apparatus has changed over the last kind of time too.
I mean, I would say some of like their like rescheduling or whatever they did. And I think it was Oregon State itself that decriminalized a bunch of what were considered narcotics. I'm sure they probably had some more like green initiative type things. I think it's probably more so that where I think they see kind of like the general trend. I don't know if it's necessarily as similar to the British Columbia thing where it was like, hey, it's our hunting thing. I think it's more of just kind of I think they see like you mentioned, like general control of the legislature, not always going, I guess, more so in their favor.
Right, but I still think it's a lot about how much. It's not so much their favor or not favor; it's that they have no recourse at this point because they're so outnumbered in the population.
I'd be curious to see what their numbers are as far as the legislature.
Yeah.
Are they considered a Democratic supermajority like we are the opposite of, basically?
Yeah. I would guess. I don't know. Because like the inverse here is like a lot of people argue about here is that like the rural counties here tend to be have far more political sway than the urban counties here.
Right.
But I guess that's
they could
because
have fewer districts. I'm not sure.
That's also because we're a Republican supermajority, and all of our major municipalities are Democratic, and so of course all the rural areas,
which is similar for most states.
Oh, but I mean the question, I suppose, right? Because it should be population. I mean, if the way the House and Senate work is it's population based, so it shouldn't be too far off.
It should be. When was the last time we expanded the legislature, I wonder? We
haven't. Just the numbers. The numbers have gone up with it, though.
Because I think I looked at what our standard is like federally, and it's something like on average, like 250,000 people or something like that per representative.
Yeah, I think the Senate is. What did we say? There's 30.
It's 50. Or sorry, 100.
No, state Senate.
Oh, state Senate. Sorry.
Because there's 3 House members for every state senator, and I want to say Becky told me. I want to say Becky told me her district's like 200,000. So divide that by 3, which would be 66,000 or so per House rep. I think that's right, something like that.
Sure. Those numbers just might add up.
Well, 66 times 3 is 200. Well, 198, but I didn't do the 0.33333 or 0.666667.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I again going back, like I could see the tendency to want to be like, you know what, let's just be part of Idaho. It makes more sense to us because Idaho's got what, Boise. That's it.
There's a few major cities, or semi-major compared to rural.
Right, but I mean, what's the population of Boise? I kind of want to know that now.
It's a Google away.
And that's Let's all go with that ship. Of Boise.
Boise.
I know. 2023, 235,000. So it's half the size, a little bit bigger, a little bit more than half the size of Knoxville.
Damn.
And that's the biggest of the state, for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
What's the
also known as the Treasure Valley.
What did we? I just forgot. What did we just say? 235. Let's take the Boise out of this question. 2 million.
2 million, yeah.
So a little bit more than 10% of the total population is in Boise. I'd bet. What's Tennessee's? Now I got more questions.
So much to learn.
7.1. So I would say, and this is where the legislature doesn't add up, because I would say that between Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville, 2.5 million probably.
I don't know.
City of Knoxville is.
I always forget what our population is here in Knoxville.
Well, I screw up too because I count Knox County as the city of Knoxville, and that's 500,000. City proper is only 180.
Okay.
But I want to say Nashville and Memphis are both in the near 1 million, I think.
It wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Google that shit too. Nashville 2.1.
Yeah. Now, I want to say Memphis is bigger. No, Nashville's more popular.
Memphis.
Populous.
Oh damn, Memphis is less than 1 million. I didn't know that. 618,000 people.
Well, it's probably much like.
Well, if you expand out to the metro area, they're 1.17.
Yeah, I was about to say it's probably kind of like Knoxville, to where city proper, it's not that many people.
You know, so 2.1 plus 1 plus a half. You know, so that's 3.6 of 7. So that's right at half the population of the state of half the population of the state of Tennessee lives in Memphis, Nashville, or Knox County.
Damn.
To be fair,
right?
I guess Shelby, Nashville, Knox County are about half the population of the state of Tennessee, and there are 16 of 100, or 16 of 99, or whatever it is, House reps. That's crazy. Yeah, our representation in the state of Tennessee sucks. This doesn't make any sense.
As far as population to representative.
Well, yeah. I mean, now to be fair, Knox County is not like, let's just take Knox County out. Let's just screw Knox County. Just do two about a little right at 3 million people live in Memphis and Nashville. They are majority Democrats, maybe not 100%, but probably in the 80% range. Yep. You know, and so if 2 million of 7 million is like 12%. No, that's not right. Is that right?
I told you, man, don't be throwing numbers at me.
20%.
I am not crunching numbers right now.
No, it'd be like 30%. Yeah. So just out of representation from Memphis and Nashville in the state house should be at least 20, 25. Yeah, it should be at least 20 or 25 House members that are Democrats.
We could buy you kind of one of those like joke calculators that are
I need one.
1 foot. So you can read it very clearly and crunch some numbers like plop, 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 plop.
Everybody can hear me
right.
Popping, plomp, plomp, plomp.
Literally crunching numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a computer in front of me. I got the most powerful calculator on the planet.
I know.
But that's interesting. I didn't think about that. So 3 million people. Yeah. I mean, hell, if that Memphis population is correct and declining, as it said in the little thing that I read it on.
Like I said, I wonder when the last time we expanded representation.
Right, but it shouldn't need expanded representation. The district should just get smaller. Physically smaller.
Move the districts.
Right.
You would have to add a district, essentially.
No. You just shrink those districts, and then districts that are in more spread out get physically larger.
I mean, if population's going up, I kind of see what you mean as far as you could possibly move around percentages of representation. But.
Again...
But if population's still growing, you've still got the same number of representatives. On average, you're still going to get less representation per person.
Yes.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't know.
I get what you mean, how you can move some numbers and not have like a bigger district, but you still got the same amount of representatives if you're doing the math like we're talking about, taking total population divided by representation.
Right, but if the districts move in a logical manner to expand from 30,000 to 40,000 people per district, but the lines move in a way that, okay, well, when this population went up, that we may literally add a new district in Memphis, but then we subtract a different district and split it between 3 people in a rural section. I mean, that's how you do the math on it to keep the same number of reps from 30 to 40,000 people.
Right.
It would be like out there in Waverly where there's nobody lives. You have 3 reps that are 3 reps that are there, and right now you cut one of those districts out, and then you give that district to the portions of that ones to the surrounding districts to get their number up to 40, and then make a new 40,000 person district in Memphis.
Yeah,
because that would be properly representational as a percentage of the total population, which they do, and they did. That's where the District 90 came from here in Knoxville. Is they created District 90 to replace 13, but also spread out some other shit. It's the same thing. That's what they do. Yeah. Anyway, moral of the story is our representation is not good in the state of Tennessee for what our actual population is. That was the point I was trying to get to there.
Took us a while to get there.
Yeah.
We got a little sidetracked.
Well, my brain is all sorts of wonky from this week. I'm trying to rationalize I'm no longer in control of this thing. I'm here for I've just got to take the ride.
Right. What happens at this point is going to happen.
Right. I can't change anything dramatically, at least, for the next 24 hours. And I struggle with that internally. Like, it bothers my brain to not be in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're mentally going through your checklist. Like, did we do everything? Like I said, you found one thing earlier. Like, oh shit, didn't pay that guy.
Yeah, and you pay that guy, or the kids are going to be really sad.
Right.
I have to. I got to show
about health.
Well, see, I did it right. I had the church do the work on this one. They're going to deliver the bounce houses.
Nice.
Yeah, they're going to deliver the bounce houses to the churches, and the event's paying for it. But they'll be cool with the church. If it was just us, they might be a little bit more strict about their payment rules.
Yeah.
And actually, he said that the payment is due prior to delivery. And delivery is not till 11 a.m. tomorrow, so I could do it tomorrow morning if I wanted to.
Right, and they could cancel it tomorrow morning if they wanted to.
But I'm going to go ahead and do it tonight and be done with it.
Right.
I meant to do it like hours ago. Well, I was up on the roof. That always gets me in a different headspace, too. I had to go hang our super, super cool sign. So anyway, if you're in the holler, if you're listening to this, you better hurry up. It's already started. We're 30, 45 minutes into activity. You missed the beginning of this fun experience. So I don't know what else has been happening. Let me pull up my cheat sheet and see if there's anything. Oh, we didn't talk about I remembered last week after we cut about the sheriff's office getting sued. We talked about it off air a little bit.
What was it they were getting sued over?
During the protests about what's going on in Israel, Gaza, when they were protesting out on campus, and our beloved Yassine got arrested, among other people. One of the other people arrested was a lady, and I don't recall her name.
Is it like a class action, or is it just a couple individuals?
No, it's just one person.
Oh, okay.
We talked about this. You really don't remember?
I do remember. I just couldn't remember the specifics of how much we talked about.
Essentially, she is an Arab American. She is a devout Muslim. She covers her hair when she's in public. She wears her hijab.
Oh, I thought it was Yassine that did it.
No.
Okay, we were talking. This was the mugshot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she had, she was protesting with the other people, and her and amongst other people that were protesting were detained and taken in and processed. Not held, not fined. I don't think anything other than just a couple hours of BS. And so in the process, when you're getting processed, you get your fingerprints and mugshots and all that stuff. And they made her take her hijab off. And she didn't want to. And they made her do it anyway under the false pretense, and that is me injecting opinion, but under the false pretense that they wouldn't go publicly share said photo of her without her hijab. And I don't know if they did it intentionally. I don't know if it got messed up. I don't know if they were just going to do the picture and then not upload it and just leave it blank or whatever. Because they do that sometimes. I said doo-doo. They do that sometimes where they'll book somebody and there's no photo.
Right.
Because the problem is if they put the photo in the system, it's public record. It's not up to them whether it goes out or not. Like that's public record. So anyway, they made her take it off. They told her that they weren't going to publish it.
Names are. I don't know about
and
pictures.
Then they did.
I mean, there's the 24-hour arrest thing that I think that's a county website.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's public record. It's at least subject to public
record is, but I mean, this is something where they haven't even gone to court yet. So I wonder if that's public record.
I believe it's public record.
Gotcha.
I think there's some gray area of policy requirements of how what they have to do in the processing and whether they could put it down, whether they don't have to put it on record because it's just a detainment that's not, they haven't been criminally charged with anything, they're not getting fined, they're not going to court.
Right.
Whether they can abstain from certain parts of putting it on record because of the situation, that might be a possibility. And so they might not have been lying when they told her and they just accidentally uploaded it. So anyway, the picture comes out with her without her hijab. She's very upset, and she is suing the sheriff's office for it. Which my initial take on it when I first heard the story a couple weeks ago when it was happening, it's like, what's the point of a mugshot? Like, literally, what's the point?
Right. So you can identify them later.
And if this lady is as devout as she says she is, you're only going to see her with it on. What her hair looks like doesn't matter. Because nobody that's not in her immediate family that lives in her home is ever going to see her without it on. So if the point is to make it her identifiable, then you want it on. Right? Like, I would think that would be the logical policy stance from the sheriff's office. If the point is, this is what the person looks like. You're never going to see her hair, so we don't need to see her hair in the picture either.
Right.
So this is what the person looks like. It's a lady with this face and a head covering. I feel like that seems like the logical conclusion to it. Now, again, I understand that there's some complications to it. Generally speaking, like you can't wear
jewelry,
burqa. Burqa.
I'm not sure.
The face covering version that some sects of Islam use might be a little problematic for a mugshot, and I could see where it gets a little wonky and a little bit. Well, you know what? Sorry, we respect your religion, but you are being detained on criminal actions. We're getting a picture of your face.
Yeah.
But this one just seems like, I don't know. It just seemed just kind of dumb. Like it got blown out of proportion. It shouldn't have been done. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure what I feel like it should have happened in the initial side of it. They certainly shouldn't have told. Like, I don't know. To me, it's public record. They should have told her it's public record, and they shouldn't have told her it wasn't going to get published.
I mean, you would think this is something they would have figured out, 20 years ago. When
I mean, I believe there's policy. They have policy on it,
right?
And I don't know the correct answer to that.
Yeah.
Now the question is the because that's part of the lawsuit question I have. Is it's like, well, if it's a policy issue, then yeah, you sue the sheriff's office for a shitty policy. But if it's just bad actions by a couple of deputies, is the sheriff's department at fault? Well, I guess it's their employees, so they do have some responsibility for that.
I mean, it's not always the best assumption, but I assume in a case like this that her lawyer in this case.
He's a big dude.
Looked at the books.
He's a big dude out of Nashville. Like, he's a name. Like, I don't recall what it is, but it's a name. Like, I've heard the name before.
I mean, a lot of civil rights lawyers, are kind of bigger names.
Yeah, he's one of the guys. He's one of those guys.
Right.
That you've heard his name mostly out of Nashville.
But yeah, I think you would assume he would have looked at what statutes are and what their rules are before bringing this case, unless it was more kind of like a scare tactic to get them to settle out of court. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I agree. I think the statutes are important. I don't think the policy matters to the lawsuit. Really.
Well, I mean, you can't really say it's deprivation of rights. I mean, it's in that gray area of kind of deprivation of religious rights.
Yeah, for sure. But I think but if the policy is, we get you without your head covering, that's the policy, then
right. And that's it. And that's where
right, but you could sue that policy is unconstitutional and
right.
Whatever. Or if it was just bad actions by a couple of deputies, well, you're suing for bad actions of the couple of deputies on behalf of the sheriff's department, which you need to control your employees.
Right.
I mean, either lawsuit makes sense.
Maybe the statute's like, can't wear hats. And they're like, we think that's kind of a hat, so you can't wear that. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think this, but like you said, I think the statute's going to be more detailed than that. Like, I think they've probably got clear definition of what they can and can't do. And so
I always like to assume that like we've thought about some of these things before,
right? But we don't until we deal with them sometimes too.
Right.
So, and it's unfortunate that this lady has to be the thing to get us to deal with it. But that's that lawsuit. I'll update when I hear more.
I haven't heard any more on this the plastic company lawsuit.
Is it already in a lawsuit phase? I don't like. I've heard different stories on it. They're definitely geared up for one. I think there was at least a few families that were suing them. It's an interest. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'd be getting sued if I was their boss, probably. I mean, I don't know. There's a line. So, like, I get it, but like I understand you should have let us go. Like, I don't know. I really don't like. I don't know how to use the words for what I'm trying. How I feel about it. It's like, do we acknowledge that this was like a once in a forever and a half storm situation, right? Right. And so like in good faith, management and ownership didn't believe that they were in the danger that ended up actually coming. And I don't know if I feel like that's fair for them to have to pay for that. Like nobody knew that it was going to be as bad as it was. It was going to be pretty bad. But that bad? Nobody was expecting that bad. I'd say there's a number of things you'd probably have to look at. I know I saw some footage that was pretty much like, the entire parking lot. I think there was like one account of they were flood prone.
Somebody like looking out the door and be like, okay, it's starting to flood, like, and running back inside and be like, hey, can we leave yet? And like their supervisor or whatever was like, we're still waiting to hear from them. We're not sure. So I think in some of the lawsuit was pretty much like, I guess, accusing them of like delaying this when there was already, possibly some flooding. Like there was an extra like 30, 45 minutes to make a decision. But
right. And the parking lot,
I don't know if they're already in a low-lying area.
Right. The parking lot was flood prone, or it wasn't the parking lot itself, but apparently like the
property in
the
general.
Driveway to get out of the parking lot kind of dipped and flooded out every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I don't know too many of the specifics.
But again, as on a manager supervisorial sake, is you looking at, okay, the driveway floods out. It does that, every time we have a significant rain, the driveway floods out. So you guys might be safer staying here because somebody's going to get stuck and we're going to have to pull you out of your car because it's going to get flooded out in the driveway. I don't know. Like, that's what I'm saying, though. It's right. Like, it seems like there's a lot of unknowns in it, and it's like,
I said, I don't know if 12 hours before that, if there was updated from like the National Weather Service or local weather of like,
but I don't know.
Hey, we knew we was expecting like 2 inches of rain, but now we're thinking like it's going to be like 8 inches of rain that's coming at you. I don't know.
I just think it's one of those, like, I guess to be my gut take on it, and I could be totally wrong as more details do start coming back out as as a lawsuit ramps up and stuff like that. My gut take on it is like, this was a huge event, and my dad died or my husband died or my wife died or whatever, I've got to blame somebody. Right. I can't just accept the fact that this unfathomable thing happened.
Right. And sometimes I have that thought of like, you could have done more to possibly prevent this, and that's kind of hard to prove.
Right. Well, and especially if we acknowledge that this was a once in a millennia event.
Right.
Like, if we agree to that premise, you can't prepare for that. There's no preparation for something like, well, there is, but there's no, why would you ever prepare for that? It's like us with snow around here. Why would we prepare for 10 days of snow in Knoxville? It happened last year. It may start happening regularly, and then we need to start talking about that as a community. But, I mean, that was a once in 20-year storm we had last winter.
Something like that.
Like, why would we be prepared for that?
Well, I think it was like a year or something, but a year or two before that. I think it might have been the previous winter. We had that crazy like cold snap of like 2 or 3 days of like sub-zero.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely
like polar vortex or whatever.
It definitely does seem that we're getting. I mean, more extreme versions of weather are happening. Period. Like we started the show with, it's fucking hot, and it's the end of October. I acknowledge that as a fact, but it's like, especially on the governmental level, but on any like,
there's always, to an extent, there's always going to be weird weather patterns.
On any institutional level, though, it's they're especially the bigger the institution, especially they're slow moving ships. You don't put a plan in place for flooding at a plastics warehouse when you never have flooding, or you very rarely have flooding, and when you do, it's minor and it's not that big a deal. You don't put a plan in for an ungodly huge flood,
right?
Because you don't think it's going to happen, and then now that it happens,
I don't think necessarily a lack of the business having a flood plan. Like, I don't think any business has a flood plan. I think they just basically have like a disaster plan of, this is what we do if we have to close down immediately or whatever.
Right.
This is our. Like I said, I don't know what kind of operation. I know it's plastics, but I don't know what kind of machinery. A lot of plastics. You probably got some hot ass ovens that you can't just like flip a switch. Like, those things have to go through like a cool down process or whatever.
Right. So yeah, you dunk them
said,
in water, they cool down pretty quick.
I put my tinfoil hat on here, and maybe the managers were like, no, I need you guys to stay an extra 30 minutes and make sure everything's locked up, closed down before we walk away. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that was some of the accusations or whatever, that they delayed their response or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and like
we'll see what comes out of it.
And I don't know. There's part of me too that at some point it's like, if you truly, like, this has always been my statement with our staff. It's like, if you truly don't feel safe, if you truly think there's a problem,
right, then
lock the doors and get out.
Right. And I think that may have been mentioned. I may be misremembering, where I think there was some people that thought that they had the threat of being fired if they left early. They just walked off the line.
I mean, you do. I would think you do. But if you're right and it was as dangerous as you were afraid it was, I don't think you're getting fired for that, because you were right.
Right.
But if you're wrong and it's not that big a deal and you just walked off because there was some sprinkles,
right,
you might get fired for that. And at some point, there's a little bit of that. I won't say majority on that. People need their work, and they're very risk averse when it comes to losing their jobs. But at some point, it's like, okay, this is too much. I'll be alive and find another job if you fire me.
Right.
I'm not going to die for you. Then just fucking leave. They can't if they physically detain you, that's a whole nother level of legal.
All right. I'll play devil's advocate again. If you had someone that was 6 months away from hitting retirement, to where they truly will financially fuck themselves by getting fired right there before they get their final payout.
I mean, if the question in your head is the employee,
I'm just playing devil's
advocate.
I
agree. I see your point of view, or I see the question that you're. And I'm again, if it's die or not get my pension, I'm going to go with not get my pension.
Right.
If I truly feel that way, if I truly feel like this is life or death, and I would think that and
it may not be necessarily like a fear of their life. It may just been fear of like losing their car, or just not being able to get home for 2 days or whatever, being stranded there away from their family.
Well, I mean, I think your pension's worth a couple of days of being stuck. I don't know. That's a decision that you have to make, though.
Like I said, I'm just saying.
I don't think it's fair to just immediately put that on.
Just trying to think of what could have been going through some of these.
Yeah,
everyone's situation's different,
and we don't know. So there's so much that could have happened, and we don't know about it. And,
right. We're guessulating.
Yeah, which is fun. I like doing it. Let's get weird then.
This is one I saw earlier. New Zealand airport wants you to hug goodbye faster. They've got a picture of a sign that says, it's hard to say goodbye, so make it quick. I think 3 minutes max. Well, that was kind of cool, but that was kind of funny and interesting.
Well, I mean, are they holding planes because people are still saying goodbye?
I think it's kind of like in the pickup, like drop-off zone. I think that's kind of what they're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Picture looks like it's outside, so I'm assuming it was kind of like the drop-off point. And so emotional farewells are a common sight at airports, but travelers leaving the New Zealand city of Dunedin will have to be quick. A 3-minute time limit on goodbye hugs in the airport's drop-off area is
that's the nice way of doing what they do
lingering
anyway.
cuddles from causing traffic jams.
I mean, that's what they do at all airports anyway. They're just usually like, it's just 3 minutes tops. They don't say, hurry up with your hugs and kisses. They just say, like, I mean, even the Knoxville airport, that's not that super busy. Their drop-off is like, I think you can't leave your vehicle. But I think it's like a minute or two, and they'll start yelling at you to get out of there.
Yeah.
Got to keep moving.
That's what I do. I haven't had to go drop off or pick somebody up at the airport in probably a couple of years, but I do like how they have that kind of like waiting area away from it, so where you can kind of, I think they call it like wait and call zone or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's basically you're waiting there till you get the call like, hey, I'm outside.
Yeah.
To where you can just quickly roll up.
Get them, throw the crap in, get out.
Right. Because I was one of those people years ago when they weren't as hardcore about it, where we'd park there for a good like 10 minutes going inside where the baggage pickup was.
Yeah.
No, I guess the airport wasn't as busy.
Right. Yeah, I think I do think that was a smart feature that they've added. Where you can go over there. And it's like it used to be a taxi waiting area. I think is what it used to be, which it probably still is.
I mean, years ago when I was there, the taxi was on a different end of the airport.
I don't know.
I'm not sure where they are now.
There's the rideshare station now.
Actually, I was about to say, they probably don't even have that many taxis.
Yeah.
They're like, rent a car or call a rideshare.
Yep. Whatever it is, just get out of here and off this this unloading spot. All right, one more. Let's get it done.
Let's see here. I think we talked about this story before. An abrupt goodbye to a gorilla goldfish aquarium beneath a leaky Brooklyn fire hydrant. We talked about somebody. It was like a leaky fire hydrant, and somebody made like a small aquarium.
The leaky fire hydrant is a new twist to the story. But yes, I do recall that somebody had put some goldfish in.
I think they were trying to prove a point or something. I wonder if that's the same thing.
Okay, the story we talked about before. As you go into that and see if I'm close to what that story's telling you.
Yeah.
The story we had before was a dude that was in front of his house. It was somebody like in front of their house. There was like a little planter box or something that held water a lot, and so in an attempt to be kind of neat and cute with it, he put fish in it, and then one of the neighbors got the fish out because they knew that was going to kill the fish if they stayed in there. And then there was some gentrification argument about white people stealing shit from black guys and some shit like that. That was the version we talked about before.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to read a little further to see if it was the same. See, the pond was controversial from the start. Some of the fish were, quote-unquote, rescued over the summer by people concerned about their welfare.
Yep.
Bastille Aquarium? I guess that's part of the town. Looks like maybe they've beautified it. Yeah, a makeshift aquarium that popped up this summer in a puddle beneath a leaky fire hydrant has been paved over to the dismay of neighbors who turned the area into a hangout spot and goldfish shrine.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the same story or not. It does. The fire hydrant was new. I don't recall the fire hydrant in the previous version. It just said it was something about.
I think this may be a little bit different
stood
story.
Water. Apparently, it's a copycat story. They thought that person who did it the other time was cool.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, they saw a little thing and they're like, hey, because the picture of it, it looks pretty nice.
Or
if they did actually try to build it up and make it look like a nice little aquarium.
Yeah, the first one,
pond, I guess.
The first version of the story, at least my recollection of it was just a.
I think they were trying to bring awareness to, like stormwater buildup or whatever.
Drawing dicks on potholes. That's why you get them fixed.
I've seen some places that have done that.
It's awesome. It's genius. I love it.
We got you to repaint it.
That's America. That is America on America right there. Got your attention, didn't I? Draw a dick on it. Okay. All right, that was a repeat. That one didn't count. Do it again.
German police say pizza order number 40 came with a side of cocaine.
Ooh, that's classic.
German police busted a pizzeria in the western city of Dusseldorf that also delivered a side of cocaine when customers asked for item number 40 on the menu. This was one of the best-selling pizzas. Criminal director Michael Graf von Macht told reporters in Dusseldorf. He said police was first tipped off by suspicious food inspectors in March. When drug squad officers began observing the restaurant, they soon discovered why pizza number 40 was so popular. Yeah, told reporters on Monday, German news agency DPA reported. When police buzzed the apartment of the pizzeria manager, the 36-year-old allegedly threw a bag of drugs out the window, which fell right into the arms of police officers. Dusseldorf police said. The bounty included 1.6 kilos, 3.5 pounds of cocaine, 400 grams of cannabis, and 268,000 euros in cash.
Yeah, dealing drugs to the pizza guy. Love it. That was a character on Longmire, was a pizza delivery guy who dealt weed.
I don't think I've ever watched it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. It's a weird kind of Western. It's Wyoming or Montana.
I remember hearing of it. But.
Yeah. It's one of those AMC, I don't know. They've done a bunch of different versions of that show, I guess, and I liked it.
All right. Kind of like Justified or whatever.
Yeah. I really like Justified. Justified is so good.
Some
I
clips of
might have a gay crush on Timmy Oliphant, to be honest with you.
Oliphant.
He plays that cowboy. Like he's just a perfect cowboy. Because I haven't rewatched that in a while, but I rewatched Deadwood a couple months ago.
Never watched that.
Oh, it's real good. It's an HBO, like it's proper HBO, like Oz or Sopranos. Like it's that style show, but it's Deadwood is a. It's like a. It's a.
Is that the one that had the guy that's in the John Wick movies?
Yep.
That runs a Continental. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
I think I've seen clips of that. I heard,
Yep.
heard it was
He's
really
fantastic in it. Timmy Oliphant's fantastic in it.
He's in it too?
Yeah, he's the main character. He was
Justified or Deadwood?
both.
Both. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just a really good, like it's like super Western. It's a gold mine town that popped up, and it's actually technically an Indian territory. So it's this big weird. There's actually not a lot of Indian interaction in the storyline of it, other than like it's territorial. Like I think it's territorial Colorado or something like that. Like that's the time frame it's in, or maybe it might be. It might be Washington, Oregon,
Midwest or something.
Right,
too, yeah.
It's some of it, but it's gold. Everybody's out there, gold, and it's like saloons and hookers, and it's just like the formation of this frontier town kind of thing. And it's just pretty good storylines and stuff like that. It's fun. Yeah, like you get like the guys
try to be pretty historically accurate.
I don't know,
or is it?
I don't know if it.
I don't know if they kind of like.
I don't know if it's historically accurate. I think Deadwood was a real place. But I don't think it's like an actual No,
I mean, I guess as far as like what they do, I didn't know if it was like dramatized to make it more.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that any of the stories are quote true, but I think like the general idea is like pretty close to accurate on some of what these towns were back in that time period. Yes, it's great. I like it a lot. But it's an HBO series. It's dark. It's dirty. There's boobies. There's cussing. All the good stuff. Not a lot of dick. There's something new we watched that just got a bunch of dick in it. It's like, okay.
Wasn't Oz?
Wasn't Oz. It was something funny, though. But anyway, I like Timmy Oliphant. But that guy from the Continental, great character. Really great character.
Yeah, great actor.
He's I believe that was before or during Sopranos run. He's very much the Tony Soprano character. Like, he is kind of the bad guy, but you love him. You love him and you want him to win. Right. Constantly. Like he's that character. I love that character. I love Tony Soprano for that character because he's like, that guy is fucking crazy, but I love him. I want him to win. I want him to be the hero.
And not trying to go down any other topic, but I think about that sometimes when kind of think about the American kind of like psyche and kind of how a lot of people
we do love our anti-heroes.
That, I mean, I think about more so kind of in like the cop shows and stuff, to where we're okay with a cop kind of pushing the boundaries or whatever.
I know.
When we think about it in actuality, we're like,
that's fucked up.
That's fucked up, right?
I do that a lot.
It's like, oh yeah, you do that to make sure you get the bad guy.
It's like, I do.
Or I kind of wonder if that psyche sometimes kind of gets mixed up.
Right. I used to be on board with it, but like nowadays I'm like, yeah, you got the bad guy and he deserves to get got, but I don't like that you went through it that way.
Like even on like Law and Order, kind of in the first half, where the detectives show up to like the hospital trying to get like medical records or whatever, and they start trying to like sweet talk the receptionist.
Which you can. I mean, if they let you in, that's legal,
right? But I think sometimes the way they did it, like, well, if you just let me take a look of like your sign-in log. I'm not asking for medical records, but if you can take a peek at the sign-in log.
I mean, the one that they do in a lot of cop dramas that I hate, and I know they do it probably in real life too, is the whole like, it'd be bad for business if me and my guys hung out down here all the time. Like that cop threat. Like, do you really want me to be down here all day, every day, just kind of hassling you? And it's like, you're literally, that's harassment. You're planning on harassing somebody and you're threatening them with the potential of harassment. That's racketeering, I guess, technically. Huh. Yeah. That's what the mob did that's what their protection rackets are.
Right.
It's you pay me or your store's going to get trashed. I'm going to be the one to trash your store.
Not necessarily by somebody else, but it could be from us too.
Right. But if you pay me, your store's never going to get trashed because I'm not going to do it.
You get a twofer. I'll protect you from other people and from ourselves.
Right. I'll protect you from these other these other crackheads in the neighborhood aren't going to come in and mess your stuff up, and neither will I.
Right.
It's a 2-for-1 deal.
Exactly,
Come on, man.
yeah.
See how much value you're getting out of this.
How can you pass this up? It's the deal of the century.
All right, last call, my friend. What else we got before we get out of here?
Nothing special.
I need to go get some sleep anyway.
Right.
Hollerboo, you're late. Get down there now. Almostagreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out all the cool stuff we got on there. Favorite podcast provider, like, friend, follow, share. Text it to your friends. Do what you can to help us get the word out. Yeah, stay tuned. I'll start talking about my next big event probably on next week's show because I'm actually already on to the next 3. So we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, almost agreeing, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.